today is our very special guest. We've dragged him up, he hasn't slept all night. It's Jacob. He's been awake all night dealing with notional and validating and all the things going with the chain. So we've given him some coffee, dragged him into my house today to get some questions answered and give you some background. Yeah. And this gentleman here, otherwise known as AMA Billy, who will be spending a lot more time now on the Dig project. Billy's a lot more technical than he is marketing, but he'll be covering sort of both the technical and the marketing. So there's Billy, handsome Billy as he's known in the trade, Jacob, our savant, and myself, and we're going to have a little chat about Dig, how it started, what we're trying to do with it, what we're going to do with it, and how we're going to expand it. So, Jacob, do you want to do a little intro of yourself, buddy?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, I'm Jacob, and I've been working on proof-of-stake blockchains for about 7 years now. Actually, be a history teacher. I'm a self-taught programmer for the most part, and I've been working mostly with the Tendermint stack before there was a Cosmos, and now with the Tendermint and Cosmos blockchain stack. And I'm gonna get the next one rolling. How this thing started, okay?
Yeah.
How did Dig start? Well, lo and behold, for various events, I meet this jubilant fellow over here who is just absolutely full of vim and vigor. And so I had a meeting with him, on an adjacent project, and decided that, all right, so what I'm going to do is I'm send this guy a message. Coming back the next day. All right. And I show up, and we sit there, we talked for what, 4 hours?
Yeah.
And we talked contract security, we talked different blockchain platforms. We also talked about, a distaste for intangibility, right?
Yeah.
We want real stuff.
I don't care what the program is. It's got no real world use. What's the point? It's not going to be used. It's just it's another bit of blockchain porn.
Yeah, very true. And I was telling him because, frankly, to get this far, you fail a lot, and blockchain real estate is something I've actually gotten far enough in twice.
Yeah, this isn't your first rodeo with blockchain property.
Yeah, no.
2017, is that right?
Not 2017. I was working more on blockchain social, but the two.
What was that? With Steeming?
It was exactly with Steeming. Yeah, it was more like 2019. I had started an adventure into blockchain real estate. And 2020, I had a podcast with one of the team members of the Realty Project. And
that was American, right?
Yeah, that's right. They had basically properties that were wrapped in LLCs, and the holders of tokens, they did fractionalize it. The holders of the tokens would receive rents, but there were a lot of gotchas. Americans couldn't even invest in these properties, even though it was actually American property.
Well, Canadians.
I don't the Canadians are kind of...
It's been bad now, crypto in Canada.
Yeah. Well, because you can transact with it how you like to, right? Yeah. Well, it's terrible. Can you believe those truckers?
I love them. I absolutely love what they've done. With a few trucks, they brought it to his knees, and they as soon as they banned crypto in a country, everyone goes, it's banned. The one guaranteed way to make it go up the ladder and get everyone to know is to do that. I mean, and then of course we have Billy. You all know Billy, handsome Billy. You have to shout, Billy, because you haven't got a microphone.
Not gracing with a microphone.
Not a turn for him. He speaks like right in
yelling to Jacob's microphone.
Yeah. Do that.
Yeah. So I'm here as well. So I've obviously been working with Charlie for the last sort of year and a half on DeFi for you, and now on Dig Chain as well. And now with Jacob more as well at Notional, helping to sort of do more outreach with Notional's validating and infrastructure stuff and relaying and what they're doing. So I think that with Dig Chain now,
what am I talking about thinking?
I think that with Dig Chain now, you you can see that, like what you were saying about the Americans not even being able to invest in tokenized real estate in the US. So with these models that we're going to launch in like Ukraine and in the UK and in Vietnam and Thailand and the US as well, you know, it's a game changer in terms of allowing access to these.
I think so.
Things.
I mean,
because they can be programmed to allow access by not breaking any rules. You can be programmed.
Exactly.
But I spoke to a guy in the UK who was a bit of a tech head, and one of his advisors was asking about DIG, and I was explaining the multi-chain, the hub central system, chain for each country. And he's going, well, why do you need a chain for each country? It can be tokenized. And I've gone, well, each country has its own set of rules, and within those rules are another set of rules to do with leasing and so on and so forth. It's a tiered system, right? If you do a smart contract for that, if you actually program it, it is programmable, but it's got so many entry and exit points, it's going to get hacked.
Yeah, and we can easily end up, you know, working at like the city or county level too. There are additional regulatory layers there, and the fact of the matter is the real estate market is simply big enough. So one of the things that DIG is an open source framework where truly anybody can pick this stuff up. They can connect to the DIG mainnet, even or not, if you know if that's not their pleasure. And I think that in the long term, the role of the DIG mainnet is going to be like to provide services to those chains, and then with the upcoming Cosmo upgrade.
Do you agree that sort of smart contracts have been oversold? A little bit.
Yeah, well,
they can do so much. They're functional. They can do so much, and they've got to be controlled a lot by a platform anyway. Smart contract. So this can be truly decentralized, and if Germany, for instance, German DIG decides they don't like it for whatever reason, the government attacked it. There's nothing they can do.
Right.
It's held there. It's done. You know, Trudeau can say his thing. So it is decentralized as much as anything can be, right? Mm-hmm. But it is controlled and a business through what we're going to do with the property, right?
Yeah, well, that's exactly it. And you know, one of the core realizations that I had from the past real estate projects is just, okay, you said smart contracts are oversold, but you know, we're putting smart contracts on DIG right now. Let's break them into two groups, okay? So what we got, you know, the smart contract style on ETH, yeah, probably oversold. There are some pretty serious long-standing security issues. And
there are a lot of hacks, right, on Ethereum smart contract.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of those are actually prevented by the design of Cosmo. And that's, you know, that's the contract standard we've been working with on Juno. And I mean, just the early indications of this thing.
What's Juno's price? Juno's price?
About $30.
Is it?
Market cap of over $1 billion now.
$30?
Yeah.
I don't know what it's
I know
What
is the stress, right?
Yeah.
You
know, it's like, I know people look at markets because they stare at them, and I did in the beginning a long time ago.
Of course.
Now I'm like, whatever. You know, it might take years to recover. It might be a double tomorrow. Just when it's ready, it's ready. We just keep building it. Now the exciting thing that we've got this end is that obviously I was in holidays before for a long time, right? And one of the big problems they've had in the holiday industry is that people want to buy a villa or a fractional bit of that apartment, but they want to own it deed and title.
Yeah, they don't want to do like a timeshare thing.
Now, it's obviously, if it's another country, that's a whole set of rules on that.
Yep.
You know, one of my best friends has bought one of the biggest villas in Vietnam. Yeah, but it's on a development. It's all leasehold. Can't quite get the red book. It goes on and on and on. There's idiosyncrasies with it. Great, he's got enough money to take that gamble. Most people wouldn't spend $5 million on a villa and take that gamble. So the holiday industry had this big problem for a long time. Nobody wants to buy the whole thing. They're not going to use it there the whole time. They don't want to maintain the whole thing either. So they had this thing called timeshare, which was oversold. Yeah, because basically
timeshare worked before the internet and before you just go on booking.com.
Now it's oversold. What's the value of it? There isn't really a resale value.
Down.
You've got a right to use, right? You haven't got a resale value.
Down.
Okay, down is.
So they've
got literally.
What is DAO?
Well, it's the tooling, it's the software that we're going to use. I just realized this, okay? If we hadn't come over here today and made this video, I would have made this realization. But, like, there's actually a software toolkit. It's called DAO. And, like, if people fractionally owned a property, DAO has all of the tooling for that property's
Maintenance, cleaning, drivers.
Well,
water.
no, DAO doesn't have for the maintenance, the cleaning the drivers and the water. No. What DAO has is it's like okay. So then we make a token, right? We're basically going to use this token to make decisions, right? Well, you can break the property into a DAO. You buy into the DAO. Okay, now you own a piece of the property.
DAO like dowry, is that sort of way it comes from?
Oh no, not DAO like dowry. No. Decentralized autonomous organization.
Oh, well then again, a nice, easy, simple one to remember.
All right. Actually, I think a lot of us kind of hate that term. I do.
I quite like it.
You quite like it?
I like to complicate it and charge more. And I'm not even joking. The problem has been they have a right to use which has no resale value. Okay. If they own, let's say it's got a 60-year lease, and they own a 12th of that property, and for want of a better word, they own deed and strata title. Yeah. Obviously, the longer they have it for, the less it'll be worth.
Yep.
All right, but that's something that can actually got a resale value.
Yep.
Okay, because it's actually got it belongs to them. Yeah. The developer may look after it for them. So you've got a company called Wyndham, which is the biggest company in the world for resorts, hotels, by a long way. And they're talking to us now through a fintech company in Singapore. We've got to put the first one on. But this opens up literally 3 million properties very quickly.
This is sort of like we're coming in.
It's great for them as well.
It's good for
COVID,
everybody,
right? Because they've just been absolutely.
Well, the bad thing for them is that the fact that they can't anymore lie if they're selling anything because they're bagged and solid.
Yeah.
But not all timeshares bad. Marriott, Sheraton, Radisson, Four Seasons, great.
Well, everyone did it, right? But
yeah, there was a lot of spurious sellers out there. This stops that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely does. You get clear property rights.
Yeah.
And, when we move this information onto the chain, everybody's going to also be able to compare very easily. What am I getting? What are you getting? That's actually going to be visible.
Just out of interest, because obviously Binance are a centralized exchange. Everyone's doing that. They've got massive traction.
Yep.
One guy tweeting from around different countries has done it on his own, just like Mark Zuckerberg built Facebook. I'm not sold on that, but nevertheless, that is a global exchange.
Yeah.
He hasn't even got, not licensed, a bit all over the place, but been getting away with murder.
Well, it grew a bit too quick, and then all of a sudden everyone's like, hang on a second.
I want to speak the positive case for a second.
Yeah.
I mean, Binance is a damn good product.
Yeah.
I
think
definitely
they push futures trading a bit too much.
Unfortunately, it's a kind of a dark pattern in my opinion to encourage people to use leverage. Right?
Oh god, with crypto it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's already too volatile. You stick that on there, you can lose.
I just saw some stats a while
Like
ago. 3/4 of crypto trading volume, only 1/4 of volume of the whole market is spot volume. The other 3/4 are leveraged futures.
Really?
So when the market tanks,
Oh my God.
3/4 of that just fucking tanked.
Gone.
Like,
I sent my son some money for a car. My son's into tech, so he shorted Bitcoin.
No!
On the bull run.
So he's got a Yugo.
Yeah.
You got it?
Well done, Willie. You're the man.
fair play, I mean.
So what's in between a centralised exchange as far as the benefits are and a decentralised exchange in your humble opinion?
Well, I mean, okay. Let's talk about like the design patterns for decentralized exchanges because they really work quite differently. In a centralized exchange, you have an order book, and I think for a lot of traders familiar with stocks and what have you, right? Like the order book is a very comfortable mechanism, and the liquidity pool is really quite different. Adam and Billy know this, but hey, audience, Genesis validator on osmosis is pretty much like.
Do you want to give them a little insight to what a validator does?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people think blockchain, when you built it, because Bitcoin was built, it's a very simple blockchain, and then it can just be left alone. But that's got a very simple build to it, whereas the newer ones are much more complicated, right?
Well, yeah, they have more features. Let's talk Bitcoin for a second. You know, I had that Bitcoin mining operation, Drone Energy, still running in the Buffalo, New York area. And all right, so Bitcoin, you can't really just leave it alone. I mean, Bitcoin consumes this vast amount of electricity, which interestingly, I think it consumes in a very green way. There are people out there who totally disagree with me on this point, but
Somebody said to me it costs more to print fiat money with electricity and damage to the environment than Bitcoin would ever do damage to the environment. Was that just a bit of spin?
I think that's a bit of spin, but I think
varies
the whole thing.
1% of global energy is one that I've seen like that. I don't know if that's true, but
Well,
that's
I think
That's
Bitcoin does this like weird
That's a lot.
dive
That's
toward low cost, consistent
Well, you're
sources
incentivized.
of electricity. Yeah, that's right.
But what happens when Bitcoin is fully mined? What happens then?
It'll take like 200 years.
Actually,
Alright.
that'll be the fees, though. The fees are supposed to take over. Now,
Okay.
somebody I work with and respect a great deal, Sonny King, literally the inventor of like classical proof of stake. That's his key critique of Bitcoin. Right? I once spent 3 hours with him, you know, discussing this exact point of like, he's like, but no, the fees will never take over. Now, I believe this to be possible, but I don't know, right? Because the thing is, we can't really map the future.
No,
And,
but not in tech anyway, because things happen every day.
yeah, Bitcoin definitely, its strength is simplicity. And, you know, for the audience, I suppose I would say I'm a huge fan of Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin is excellent money. And, you know,
Do you think Bitcoin was started by some guy in Japan called...
Japan? No, I
Do
mean,
you think it was, who do you think actually designed it?
There's how to make a mint, right? I don't know if you like. There's a 1996 paper out of the U.S. National Security Agency that it describes something Bitcoin-like, but it doesn't have proof of work. Okay. However, concurrently, an external to any like intelligence agency or what have you, you also have like the cypherpunk movement. I couldn't tell you if there's overlap between the two, and I mean, definitely how to make a mint is, that paper describes a lot of fundamental digital currency concepts and very, very early on.
That was 10 years before the launch, right?
Yeah, and more.
That was launched in the financial crisis.
You know, Bitcoin hit 08, so we're going about 12 years.
Well, yeah, it's away. I mean, and this is the thing I saw last night. The guy that founded Kraken, the exchange Kraken, he's been giving money. He sent some money to the truckers in Canada. They've been hacked apparently, and the government are now releasing all the names for everybody, right? I know this guy was first to mine the Bitcoin. And you're not going to mine something you don't understand. He also works for the CIA, security systems for their websites and so on and so forth. So, in my humble opinion, having looked at it, other than the guy from Japan, the mystery guy, I'm going to go with the Americans invented Bitcoin. It's a much more feasible.
There's that documentary on it. E-money guy, not E-money, not E-money as in E-money. There was an earlier version.
Cash. David Chow.
No one really knew about it. No one really sourced it, and it's like the first reference on the Bitcoin white paper.
Yeah.
And the guy who makes it, like, he leaves 2 spaces after every period. This is Bitcoin white paper, and 2 spaces after every period. Like, it very much looks like
I put 2 spaces after every period. Where you guys talking about?
I'm a three spacer.
You're a 3 dot.
3 dots.
3 dots after.
Oh man, I don't know.
I want to know that.
How do you think
No, or you're wrong.
to take
Your
it back?
teachers will get you angry.
I didn't do it at school. They wouldn't let me.
To take it back to the proof of stake thing.
The Bitcoin, right? So,
Well, okay, Bitcoin versus early proof of stake, like what Sonny King, former employer and mentor of mine, Bitcoin versus early proof of stake really centered around that question of fees, and it's probably notable to say that PureCoin is actually one of the smallest in terms of its total size blockchains around that's derived from Bitcoin code base. It also still uses proof of work, but it does that only for like initial distribution, and after that there's the reward for staking, your coins on an active node. And now let's forward a bit, okay? I think that modern proof of stake really started with Graphene Consensus, Dan Larimer's little baby there. And yeah, Graphene Consensus. So like BitShares, Steem, EOS are really all the same consensus mechanism. And I do think that the current form of like fast-paced application blockchains started there. But there were issues. There were a bunch of issues that really got quite deep into economic security. And this is, in my opinion, how you end up, looking. So Jay, I know this for a fact. Jay wanted to build a decentralized exchange. He lost money in the Mt. Gox. And this led him to, as he puts it, discover Tendermint Consensus. Discover because he actually drew a lot of inspiration from papers that were written in the 80s on, like, basically just how to get computers to agree with one another.
The MasterCard and Visa had a massive problem with very slow systems, right?
Well, these papers were not MasterCard and Visa. These were more like fundamental computer science papers that probably could be applied to that set of problems. And so, like, when I first ran into this group, right, it was just Tendermint. Cosmos wasn't there yet. And Tendermint was pretty revolutionary, and quite frankly, like, I was looking to improve upon Steam. Building this thing called the Dawn Network. It's still on GitHub. Steam.
Steam.it, the social network.
Yeah.
Dan did that.
Yeah, correct.
I went on to Steam. I didn't realise, I was just scrolling on a blockchain, right? So there was an article written on Steam. Just have you seen it?
I've seen it.
And it was about flat Earth. We just thought we'd do something for fun. See if we could get some sort of. We had no money at the time. We were trying to get some money together for a concierge, trying to get ideas from Martin. So I wrote this, like, it's quite a good article. It's actually written by a guy called Mark, who's a copywriter. The article isn't bad, but it's half crazy, It's half out there.
Well, Steam was good for that.
But then all of a sudden, I've got a better set of article off. We're getting traction now with ABA. We've got to the ICO. We've got to get people to think I'm crazy to take it off, and it's like, well, you can't. It's on the blockchain.
Right.
It's there forever.
Yep.
So I sort of went off social platforms that are on the blockchain. There's a definite problem there for sure.
Yeah.
You never ran with a friend and it stays there forever.
Yeah.
So you knew that, right? You knew that the guy. You did EOS as well.
I've been chatting with him recently about his project.
Is he really rich now? Is he just a normal guy? You just carry on developing?
I don't know. I used to be on podcasts with Dan, the so-called Beyond Bitcoin show that my buddy ran, and I did that pretty routinely for a while. And I mean, like, tell me about that, because I don't actually know if he's really rich or what he's doing on a day-to-day basis. What I do know is that talking to him on those podcasts really did shape kind of like my view of what's possible, right? BitShares is super flawed. Was and is, in my opinion, super flawed. However, that thing explored a lot of very powerful concepts. It had like a token factory. So like, on Ethereum you'll do an ERC20 contract, but like on BitShares you just create a token. And all the tokens are basically native to the chain and they use the same technology in the same format. I mean, that guy's very smart. I mean, like, it's kind of unbelievable. In fact,
I do Steam it, and I actually tried to contact him to get that taken off, but that. Well, the internet guarantees to bring up any mistake in the past anyway. nobody's had a blessed life. If people are involved in crypto, in my humble opinion, they are forward-thinking. They are risk takers.
Yeah.
They have another view of the world away from government thinking, if you will. They're not indoctrinated, and we make some mistakes, But we also do well. I mean, what I love about the property side of it, right, is because property is massive, obviously, right?
Yep.
And you need trusted systems in property to make it work properly.
Yes.
And
I need to comply with the law.
Can't just make a token NFT and not have someone actually.
Sean, the CEO of P5U in the UK, his ex-wife, Melanie, she was a conveyancing lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a couple of properties in the UK and I got her to do it for me. It was as the crash was happening in 2007, 2008. Obviously, I bought it for much more than I was going to sell it for. I was exposed to my mortgage. I lent car loans unsecured against it. So I had about 30 or 40,000 pounds worth of loans against the property, right? That have to be paid back when the property sold.
Yeah.
So they've got like a charge on them. Because Melanie was doing it for me, I won't say her second name. She got it so that the money was sent to me first. And I realised at that point a lawyer can basically do whatever he wants. They're not as credible as I thought they were. Now the lawyer might be on the other side. So in other words, she gave the money to me. I obviously didn't send it on to creditors because I was going through a bad time. And I took the money, as anyone would, didn't pay back the car loan or whatever, and I got hit for that. But the bottom line was, she, in a system I thought they couldn't mess with, could do what she wanted with the money.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, they could actually they could say what they want about the value of the house then, and have a deal with the conveyancing officer. Basically, hold on a minute, this is nowhere near as credible as I thought was the outcome. So when it's done this way, although it's setting up is not easy, it's not an easy setup, it's much more complicated than this setup than having a lawyer. You just pay your lawyer $700.
Right, you don't have to program your lawyer.
Yeah.
I mean, basically, like, one of the things that we're doing with Dig is we're going to automate away a lot of the paperwork and other compliance-related stuff that's associated with buying real property. And that doesn't mean that, like, you're not going to have a deed. In fact, it's our hope that, you're gonna have a deed, it's gonna be fully legal, and your property is gonna be uniquely liquid.
That's a real key issue. Well, obviously, when people start trusting in this, I mean, we'll look at that particular contract, whether they might come on to dig, and they might come to DeFi for that to get that, but we'll look at that particular contract and we'll make an assessment on the loan. But it's much more liquid that way than any other way. What happens in the UK at the moment, I was saying the UK, the UK market, is that people buy their house, £100,000, they pay £80,000 back, then they tend to remortgage, right? Even up to the age of 65, they're remortgaging and they're doing this anyway.
Yes, because they have all that value stored up in the house.
Yeah. But it takes a long time to get a remortgage going through. You've got to pay a large amount of
and there are a lot of fees involved too.
Where you take, this is taking that slice of deed and title, and we've got that, so if it all goes wrong, we've got it.
Yeah.
That's a lot easier way to make a loan. And then they can look at that, yes, it's there's a surveyor on it, it's not in a floodplain, there's all sorts of things going on property. So it's massively open to the market, but having now got to the logistics of getting the property on and getting the developers on, I can see why nobody's done it properly.
Oh yeah.
It's a shitload of work, right?
Well, so I think it's the structure. And this is actually, okay, so you want to talk about proof of stake, you want to talk about Cosmos. Well, I think that it's the Cosmos IBC network structure that's even going to make Dig possible. I talked about realty, and I said, basically they had U.S. properties that were wrapped in LLCs, and so, like, our key thing, every single, let's call it like jurisdictional area, is going to be able to have its own unique set of rules and constraints. And if we didn't have the IBC technology that allows us to link these things together, well, you could do it on a place-by-place basis, but I think that you then hit the private blockchain problem. And I mean, although I've built like private chains with Hyperledger, I've never seen them work.
You said I've actually got from your value.
I think the technology has just literally been available over the last 6 months.
You said that private blockchains aren't alive, therefore they're useless.
That's right. Well, they're not alive. So like a public chain, a public chain is alive. It can reconfigure itself. Okay.
What does that mean to somebody that's watching this thing?
Well, so like, you know, if a validator on dig goes down, right? Well, at some point they'll be jailed, right? It doesn't remove the stake weight from them, but it takes them out of the power pool.
Jail means taken out of the system, right?
Yep, exactly.
For an indefinite amount of time, depending on what they do.
Well, the validator can unjail itself.
Right.
Well, not the human has to unjail the validator. It's a transaction. And, but like, basically, there's politics in a Cosmos proof stake chain. Like, this is a feature and not a bug.
Do you know what surprised me working with you, right? Because I work with developers, I never sat with them, and I've never just been on them. What surprised me, if I get an architect in to build a house, right, they're going to have an opinion how they want to build that house. And a good architect can have an opinion, and I get a second opinion, they're going to have an opinion how they want to build that house. They are both correct. Or they may have things wrong with them. But what makes me laugh about, I was on that group last night, you speak to each other so tersely. We're in marketing and sales, if you will, so we're sort of as polite as we can be, but I go in your group and think, God almighty, you just smash each other. You don't have you don't care about feelings at all. Yesterday, that's a load of bollocks, that's right. I'm like, oh God, it's like, but that was a general feeling about it. Well, yeah, you're very hard on each other, very hard.
And
It's just bang, that's a load of bollocks.
And when it's programmed, you can see if something's going to work or if there's a fundamental bug in it. Then if someone's going to move ahead with something, then you've got to cut that, and then I guess they just know to.
Well, yeah, I mean, I suppose if you want to explain every single reason why you're going to say no, you're going to be there for hours, so in the end you go, right, no, I've checked it out, so waste your time. Because it just takes too long to explain. It's like if somebody contacts me and says, hey, Charlie, you're into DeFi and dig and cryptocurrency, tell me how it works. I'm like, oh good.
Right, that's a 6-hour conversation.
Minimum.
Yeah. And also, that does not get into... so in your role, right, I would say that you know the real experience comes in when you start to learn the interplay between the community and the market, and sort of understand how these markets move and are constructed.
Yes. I mean, it's been actually having a chain as opposed to the tokenized product, right? Chains a breeze. It's lovely, very transparent. Very few people in there don't give a shit about hurting other people's feelings. They say it like it is, to each other. We know that there's when you first sort of explained osmosis Cosmo system to me, I was like, okay, that sounds good. But now I've got to know it, it's so much more robust than anything I've seen.
Yeah.
It's a very, very robust system. And people want to know why it's so robust. Actually, I do know why it's so robust than something
I think the great thing about Cosmos, and we've mentioned this before, is when we were talking with Bren before, like, say an ERC20.
So who's Bren?
Bren's the who is Bren? Bren, what is Bren?
Bren Hill. He's helping out with.
Is he in Singapore? Is he in
Saigon?
Yeah, Saigon. Yeah.
Saigon, down in Saigon.
Bren manages the developers.
I would say, I mean, realistically, that what he does is every time we hit an incredibly hard problem, he maps out how to solve that. Bren is an extremely talented engineer that actually, like, within Notional on several occasions has just kind of like stepped in to solve XYZ, you know.
I like Bren. I studied and we got Bren building the actual DApp for the dig.
Bren was saying before about Cosmos that when you have an ERC20 token, anyone can build one of those for $200, right? Not anyone, but anyone with the skills to do it. It's not difficult. Whereas with Cosmos, set up a Cosmos chain.
It's a whole...
You have to build a blockchain, you have to convince 50 odd validators to come
in. You build a blockchain. I thought you could just copy it
on it. And
they need to buy you
a certain amount.
When you made the original one, when you made the vote, you then start branching off with compliments.
Well, check it out. They're all good. That's very interesting.
The dig was built as a new chain.
Oh, yeah.
There wasn't any copying there. It was Blurt with some background to Blurt, obviously.
No, wait. Let me tell you a thing. Every Cosmos
chain... I smoke cigarettes or not? I'm not allowed to.
I don't think you're allowed to smoke cigarettes.
Can you get me a cigarette? I'm not going to be smoking. This is not a real cigarette, it's an e-cigarette. You'll get triggered.
I see.
Joe Rogan smokes dope.
Alright.
He smokes cigars. They drink alcohol. Oh, you want a cigarette?
Okay. Now, what was I
This is the blessing.
Cosmos.
Cosmos system. And I'm building the chain. I just copied the chain, copied the chain.
Ah, yes. Okay. So they're all descendants of Gaia.
Gaia as in Gaia TV Gaia, or Gaia as in Gaia the...
Gaia as in Gaia the Cosmos hub. A little bit like Gaia the Mother God, too.
Yeah,
because she's the mother of all chains.
Yeah. Mother of all chains will survive.
Yeah. So check this out, right? Like, Gaia became, over time, the fundamental design for a chain in Cosmos. For a long time, when you wanted to build a chain in Cosmos, you would fork Gaia. Now there's Starport. I should tell you, as somebody who's worked on the Starport template, the Starport template is a Gaia derivative. It also means that dig, the model structure, module structure in Dig's app.go file, which is sort of like where everything comes together, right? Oh yeah, this Gaia. So, no copying, yes, totally original. And definitely, like, you know, if you didn't give credit to the Cosmos hub, the Gaia, right? Well, that would just be disingenuous. Because no, not every single thing is original, and that's actually really important to the design. Because the modules, I mean, some of these modules have you know, held billions in capacity securely. One way to evaluate the security of a piece of software, at least this is a notion. I'd love it if anybody, you know, sees this video and disagrees with me. Debate this. Ready? So here we go. Here's my opinion. It is lines of code, dollars secured over time. Okay? So, like, basically, you're taking your dollars secured, right? And you're dividing that by lines of code. Okay, now you know how many dollars secured per line of code, but the thing is, if it's a relatively new piece of software, that doesn't really mean as much. There are smart contracts on Ethereum. What's that?
It's not a proven bit of software yet.
Exactly. It might hold billions of dollars, but it also might. You've seen what happens.
Yeah, I was surprised. I say go back to the original sort of question. I was surprised because from not building a blockchain myself, I thought the technology was a lot less. I thought it was just black to white, A to B stuff. You know, I didn't realise just how many. Let's say problems, but it's just how many idiosyncrasies.
I would say a lot of that is new to Cosmos. Now, credit where credit is due. The Graphene series of chains, I said this damn the other day. I was like, yeah, you know, like, there are a lot of similarities between, you know, Steam and a Cosmos chain. But like to put credit where it's due, right? All those idiosyncrasies, a vast number of them are really unique to Cosmos. So like every Cosmos chain, I've told people like it's not money. And they're like, well, it's not money, right? And I'm like, oh no, but wait, it's
that's why you can't be in charge of marketing. When he says it's not money, you mean there is a monetary value in it, but it's not actually money.
That's exactly it. Yes, it's valuable, but it is not money.
Software-based financial products.
Fintech.
No, that's not a software-based financial product.
Actually,
it's the value of governance. It's the value of that collective decision-making capacity, in my opinion. Like
that comes back to the fundamental asset that is being traded, right? I mean, the governance.
Well, yeah,
in my opinion, the way I see it, the governance underlays the asset.
That's correct. And
business, the economy around it.
Its value and future, really.
if anybody's glazing over this point, don't worry. I will put some notes under there to help explain it to the normal people out there. Basically, we can talk about the chains all day long. What I love about Osmosis, Cosmos, the whole system, Gaia, it's the way the people that are in that system are savvy, right, clever investors, right, that aren't looking for that 1 second pump and dump, understand how things are built, understand how systems work, understand everything about the whole system. I haven't got to go around talking to people that own 100 tokens about pumping. Yeah? Now, for me, that's a bit of joy, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I'm not knocking people that buy it and sell it more. If it doesn't go up straight away, we keep building, we know we'll get there in the end. That creates, with an unsophisticated investor, they just don't get anything, and then they start to misbelieve everything, and it all goes like sort of. They make it go down. They push it out.
And this comes back to what we were talking about, the difference between smart contracts and blockchains. The way I personally see it, feel free to disagree. Is that smart contracts tend to have businesses built around them, or they serve some kind of function like lending pools or oracles or something. But I find that smart contract projects tend to remind me a lot of stocks. You look at the business and you're like, okay, if that's doing well and that's got customers, then I assume, well, I can't invest in that because it's not publicly traded on the LSE or the New York Stock Exchange.
But, you know, the issue is that
token
token is always abstracted from the equity.
Yeah, but then with a chain, there's, like you said, there's an aliveness to it. It has a pulse. There is an economic value of the chain. Like